So in this video, we're going to be talking about the difference between intimacy and sex. Yeah, hi there, I'm Tony Vee from the 10-10 movement, here helping you in areas of your life that you may be struggling with and turning those into success. So yeah, what exactly is the difference between sex and intimacy? So the easiest way to describe this is to think of your energy. So your energy has a sort of a way of, I tend to use the word expanding itself, yeah? Now, the less expanded your energy, in other words, the focus that you have is shorter. You see less than what you would otherwise see if indeed your energy was more expanded. Now, I know that all sounds very woo-woo, but just think about it. Do you have sort of what I call good day, energy feel great, bad day, energy not feeling good? That is like a sine wave of how energy flows. Now, the challenge for most people around the world today is that we're living, instead of having these high highs, or even living in a high energy, we tend to sort of gravitate near the bottom of our energy field. And actually, we have got the ability to massively raise that up. Now, what happens when you live in the lower energy field and the higher energy field is like, well, in England we call it chalk and cheese. The difference between living in these two worlds is vastly different. Now, one of the interesting things about relationships is that depending on where you live, so if you live in this part of the energy field, if this is the low, this is the high, and you live somewhere here on average, then when it comes to relationships, you're most likely to meet someone at the same energy. So the interesting thing is if you hang out right down here, you're never going to meet somebody and get into an intimate relationship with them if their energy's up here, because you just don't live in the same place. Have you ever felt that people are not like you? There's something different about them. Well, that's partly to do with the expansion of their energy field. Now, this is a bit of a moving feast, but the key difference between sex and intimacy is that when we live in the lower fields, you could say our energy is like, it's heavier, it's somewhat darker. So let me give you some examples. My favourite examples are, do you know anybody that's ever like worried about anything? Yeah, know that person well? Anybody that's ever been like a bit frustrated with life or angry with life or even a bit depressed with life? These words are sort of what we would describe as negative emotionality. So look, think about it. How many people on the planet today do you think are worrying about something? I mean, look, it's 8 billion nearly people on the planet right now. How many do you think are worrying? Well, that energy of worry is quite low down here. And some of the others like anger's lower and, depression's even lower. So the challenge is that when you've got those lower energies, then what you have is the chemistry of your system will not be firing on all cylinders, yeah? What will happen is you go into this mode, which most people are completely unaware that they're in this mode, but you effectively go into the mode that we call the fight and flight mode, yeah? And that means that your body is like adrenalized. You have glands here that let off adrenaline in an emergency. Now, these glands are made for when there's a real emergency, but what sort of happened with humanity is that we've got this firing off all the time because we've got low energy, we've got low negative emotionality in our body. Now, what happens with sex and intimacy when you're living in that field is when there's a sort of a breaker line where you break through. Sometimes I call it a gateway from the lower energy fields into the higher energy fields. 96% of people live in the lower energy field and 4% only live in the higher energy fields. Now, the difference between sex and intimacy is actually how we operate in those fields. So when you're in the lower energy field, I would call that having sex. And when you're in the higher energy field, I would describe that as being intimate. So what's the difference between these words? What's going on? So when you're in a lower energy field, most of your focus tends to be on yourself. That is the big difference. When you're in the lower energy field, your energy, your attention, your focus tends to be on yourself and things that are external to you. So how can I get things from outside of me to make me feel better? Because look, the truth is most people know that their energy is low to some degree, but they don't know what to do to raise it. So what they tend to do is they look for things that they can get from the outside world to make them feel better, make them feel somewhat happier. Yeah. Now, sex is one of those key things, because look, when you have sex with someone, what happens is obviously we have orgasms involved. Now, orgasms give you a heightened sense, a heightened feeling for a very short period of time, but it's such a heightened level of feeling that it feels good. And what happens is we like that so much that we want more of it. So if you think about it, we're having sex and our focus is much more on us, it's much more on our orgasm than the other person. Or how can we get to have an orgasm with this person? How can I have sex with them? How can I get something from them? Now, often people in the lower energy field will describe that as love. The feeling that they share at that moment, they sometimes describe as love. But actually that's not love, because that love is external. It's like we're trying sometimes to get that person to love me so that we can have sex together, so that our energy will feel higher. But of course what happens is, how long does your orgasm last? Not long. So we get like a little spike and then we go back down again. We may not go down quite as far, but then we fade back to where we were. So the difference is, if you can learn how to expand your energy and get yourself at least by the gate of these two fields, you start to get into that top one. What happens is that you start to become more of a giver than a getter. Yeah. So your focus starts to be on life itself, on other people, because you tend to feel the feeling of love inside of yourself. Once you're in that higher energy field, you haven't got those negative emotions in your body, so you automatically feel more happy. And when you feel more happy, you want to share that happiness with other people doing the same. So what happens is the sort of happy people, the happier people, the people that are in control of their emotionality, tend to mix with other people who are in control of their emotionality, and they, what I would describe as make love or become intimate, because what they're doing is they're sharing the love inside of them with the other person who's sharing the love inside of them. So it's a sharing, a giving of love, rather than a trying to get love. So there you go. That's the difference between having sex and having making love and having great intimacy. Now, obviously, if you're new to the channel, a huge welcome. Please do, if you got something from this, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. And know that up in the top right, left-hand corner here, if you're interested more about this subject and how to have a better experience through intimacy, then there'll be another video up there for you to watch. And if you're interested to learn more about the 10 areas of life, of which love and sex and intimacy is one of them, if you want to learn more about other areas of life and how you could turn the dial up on life and expand your awareness, then hit the bottom video down here where you get more information on how to do that. So that's it from me, Tony Vee from the 1010 movement. Trust you got something out of that, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.